What is up, guys? Welcome back to Think Shank. Oh my goodness, we have the fate of the Minnesota Timberwolves Los Angeles Lakers decided. It is May the 1st, and LeBron James and Luka Doncic are no longer in playoff contention. The Timberwolves have moved on to the second round winners of the Houston Rockets and Golden State Warriors. I'll jump into the game trends and the normal stuff, but I think the first thing that deserves some spotlight is really how bizarre this finale felt. If you tuned in and watched the games, it almost feels unfinished to me, and almost like some unknown forces are at play. Unexpected and just downright peculiar things went into this final fifth game of the series. Rudy Gobert was dominant. Anthony Edwards wet the bed. The Lakers didn't implode at the refs. Luka Doncic didn't even get a technical foul. LeBron James didn't power grab to try and drive the boat and close the game for the Lakers once Luka's back started to spasm. Just a lot of weirdness in that finale. Obviously, some schematic and roster construction things enabled some of those things, but even in the end, the Lakers go out with a whimper, not a bang, and given everything that we've seen from its two-headed snake, it really wasn't what I at least was expecting. We're going to start here with the Minnesota Timberwolves, who the media and most NBA fans came into the series doubting would end up moving on, spearheaded by Anthony Edwards. But the clear takeaway from tonight, whether it was betting on his own unders, eating bad sushi like Brandon Pajemski, maybe had some LA Cats just staked out and messing with his mental as a Trojan horse ploy by the Lake Show. I don't know what happened to Anthony Edwards last night, but that was probably the worst playoff performance I have ever seen from the kid. Finishes with 15 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists, does get 3 steals, but 5 of 19 from the floor and 0 for 11 from 3 for the NBA's regular season 3-point champion. Made the most number, did have 0 turnovers, but the key thing here is did not seem aggressive whatsoever in finding his own offense, and that is a testament, of course, to the suffocating levels of doubles coming from the Lakers. They were not going to allow Ant to get into rhythm early in the game, particularly in the first half. We saw the Timberwolves attempt 33s in the first half. For reference, the Boston Celtics set the record for most number of attempts in a half earlier in March of this year at 36. So that is how many threes they were attempting as a primary result of the 4-on-3 plays coming out of the doubles. They are forcing everyone else on the Timberwolves to make those decisions in those 4-on-3 scenarios as guys sprint back and yada yada. In addition, the lack of rim protection and overall size, shout out Rudy, was going to forego a lot of offensive rebounds for the Wolves as well. And then the backdrop for all of that was the steadily increasing level of fatigue and point of attack breakdowns for the Lakers the longer and longer it went into the game, and more minutes its guys were on the floor, particularly hobbled Luka and a 40-year-old LeBron. It is just going to eventually wear down that point of attack, which is exactly how rotations are started. Overall, they finished 7 for 47 from 3, which is 15% in total. And yes, a lot of those misses, in my opinion, looking at the first half specifically, the quality was really solid. They were clearly giving them the 4-on-3, and so the actual looks and decision-making in those situations was fine. It felt a lot like shooting variance. That being said, I don't think that held completely true in the second half, But again, with a high volume 3-point shooting team, you are risking getting everybody else in rhythm in that first half to then carry it over. And basically, JJ Redick kind of played his cards right. For whatever reason, the Wolves could not hit water falling out of a fucking yacht, and they still pull this one off. The flashbacks to the Houston Rockets losing to the Golden State Warriors, everybody will remember that game going 0 for 27. They shot the same exact percentage as the Wolves did last night and lost that game. The Rockets did not have a half a foot edge in height and size at the rim to swallow and put back all these shots, but that is just an interesting reference point. Ant's head was not in the game coming off of that incredible Game 4 performance. The Lakers had a lot to do with that by barraging him with constant doubles in that first half, leading Ant to take back-to-back pull-up threes to start the second half because, again, he literally was not even able to shoot. We all remember him complaining about doubles earlier in the year. Okay, great. The next point is and has to be, this was Rudy Gobert's night, and I will gladly eat crow on this because earlier in the series, I casted doubt on Rudy's viability in this matchup as a result of the Lakers small ball and trying to basically go 5 out. How well is Rudy going to hold up in those situations? And with the Lakers attempting so many threes, is his rebounding actually going to matter? And are his hands going to be effective enough to bother and punish the Lakers for going that small? I couldn't have been more wrong, and honestly, for a guy that is as professional and team first and takes as much kind of personal and unfair amount of vitriol, I am happy for Rudy, and this is Rudy Goes Godzilla. 27 points, 24 rebounds, 3 blocks, and most importantly of all, out of 15 field goal attempts, 0 turnovers in this entire game, which if you have seen Rudy Gobert catch a basketball, that feels like a mathematical impossibility, but not tonight. Typically, you have close playoff games where there is gridlock on the offensive end and defenses really up their energy and offenses get very tight. That's not new. Usually you need that release valve to get themselves to the free throw line or hit a tough contested mid-range, something to that effect. Tonight, that was Rudy Gobert on the glass or receiving or throwing down an untouched dunk from Alexander Walker or whoever that kept the Wolves moving and grooving along offensively in this game, and especially looking at how terribly they were shooting from 3, and looking at how non-existent Anthony Edwards was offensively with his rhythm cooked, and how horrendously the broader Timberwolves team was shooting from 3. They needed every single point, rebound, and momentum play from Rudy Gobert in this game. The Wolves finish plus 10 in offensive rebounding, more than doubling the Lakers plus 16 in points in the paint, primarily driven by, of course, Rudy Gobert. Unfortunately, a classic and familiar quiet foul troubly night for Jaden McDaniels, one of their breakout guys in this first round series. Really struggles to guard Luka Doncic. I think pretty much every NBA circle is well aware of that, particularly when it comes to the whistle, and I will double click into that in a second. For a guy that is such an X factor offensively for his team with title aspirations, it was unfortunate to see Jaden not necessarily make huge leaps and bounds against Luka Doncic in this matchup. It is a tough one. Luka, you really just have to be huge and strong, and even if you're long and quick, it's not really going to bother him. And Julius Randle, he was the second biggest reason the Timberwolves come out of this series in just 5 games, delivering against his former team in his first return to the NBA playoffs for the first time since 2023. I give a fuckload of credit to that man. Has been a while since coming into the playoffs, has not incredible memories of it, clearly had his woes with turnovers, poor decision-making, emotional control in previous years with the Knicks. But here are his numbers in his first playoff round series since 2023 against his former team, the LA Lakers. Game 1, they won 16-5-5 with 7 turnovers in 34 minutes, but was a plus 19 for his team. Game 2 loss was 27 points, 4 rebounds and 6 assists, just 1 turnover, 38 minutes, but a minus 14 on the floor. Game 3 win, 22-5-4 with 2 turnovers and 40 minutes plus 11. And then Game 4 win, 25-7-3, 0 turnovers, 42 minutes, and a plus 8. Game 5, 23-5-4, 1 steal, 50% from the floor, 8 of 16, 6 of 7 from the free throw line, 3 turnovers, just 32 minutes. So you are seeing Julius Randle effectively get in his bag and respond to these games in the moment and delivering what is ultimately needed for the team to succeed. The Wolves won with him scoring 16 points. They also lost with him scoring 27 points. Yet Chris Finch was well aware of upping his minutes steadily throughout, understanding the problems that he causes with his unique affection for physicality in his game when you are going up against a small ball team. They are banking on being quick and nimble. Randle wants to eat you alive near the basket, hit his turnarounds, which he hit a couple gorgeous ones in this game to keep that offensive juice flowing, has proven to be more than willing to get off ball when needed, and especially in Game 4 when Anthony Edwards had to put on the Superman cape. But about tonight specifically, the thing that I am going to remember the most about this series was down the stretch in a tight game, plus or minus 3 points. Anthony Edwards clearly did not have it going. Julius Randle busting his ass, doing the dirty work, getting the second offensive rebound in the same possession for the Wolves, trying desperately to push the lead slightly higher. Julius flares out of the paint and claps ferociously at Ant, demanding the ball after Anthony Edwards has bricked his last 3 pull-up threes, did not seem to have any energy whatsoever or fire to go into the paint, take off, elevate, etc. Randle clapped at his face, demanded the ball, takes Austin Reeves off the dribble, and gets a tough running floater to push the Wolves lead up to 4 or 5 maybe. But that moment of feeling confident and comfortable enough with his co-star, recognizing again what the game needed, Ant was not going to take them to the promised land, getting that opportunity and trust from Ant to do so, and then obviously delivering like he had been all night. The Lakers switching everything means that Randle is going to get any mismatch that he pleases, gets the nod from Ant, and then is the one to do it. So Randle takes them across the finish line tonight down the stretch. Don't know why Ant didn't have it, but this is exactly what the best case scenario for the Wolves was and is having the trust and fluidity between its two-headed snake, depending on matchup, depending on moment and context, to be able to generate badly needed offense in these tight games. Historically, a big question mark for the franchise. Feels relatively simple to me. They come out with atrocious energy from the jump in the first quarter alone. Luka got dusted off of the dribble at least 4 times, and it got so bad that later and deeper in that first quarter, there was a point where Naz Reid brought the ball up and had a cross match onto the Lakers, who again were switching so much that it was effectively a zone. So he just wafts and waltzes on over, giving the ball up to Randle, who then gives it to Ant, who takes Naz's place on the right wing where Luka is set up to guard. As Naz is waltzing on over to the opposite wing to get set up, he is blatantly pointing at Luka saying, "Go attack him. And right after that, the Lakers send a double of DFS to get the ball out of Ant's hands, knowing that Ant was going to attack Luka one-on-one, and that was going to be an automatic rotation generating attack. Just a microcosm of the experience with Luka in this series. The defense has not been there. Granted, we were clued in on some latent health issues with Dante DiVincenzo coming down on Luka's shoulder, which somehow spawned back spasms. I don't want to be a douchebag that bad. That obviously sucks. It is just an interesting mechanism to set that up. But that is par for the course from the Lakers. It's really hard to switch everything when you do have these entry points for the opposing team to attack off the dribble that easily. I do want to give flowers to both Rui and Vanderbilt for carrying the energy in the first half. It was a very, very ugly first half for the Lakers. Very minimal offensive flow. They are trying to do the small ball thing with drive kicks and the passing engine, just with no diving center. Rui both on early putbacks and hustle plays, spawning a 4-0 run by himself with a turnover that he forced in between. That was big. Vanderbilt flying around using his length and at least trying to keep balls in play. Those were just badly needed plays. And coming out of the gate, it just felt like the Lakers did not have the hope or confidence that they needed against this Timberwolves team that was younger, more athletic, and deeper to even stand a chance. Worth double-clicking on the Luka back spasms part. It was a hard playoff swipe by DiVincenzo on his shoulder from behind, but it seemed pretty cause and effect-y, where Devo comes down and hits him pretty solidly. But as Luka is falling, he's immediately reaching for his lower back, which is just not a good sign. He is very stiff, getting up and walking around, goes out of the game early to close the first quarter, comes back, still doesn't seem 100%. There are going to be a million narratives around Luka Doncic's health and viability for the postseason. I am not the historian of Luka's career in totality, but I can tell you this very much is a running motif and historical trend with this man when it comes with the most important time of the year, that is winning time in the playoffs. Whether it is a bum knee, whether it is his back, there always seems to be some dink or nagging injury for this man who is only 25 or 26 years old. And that is outside of the fundamental narrative around him and his conditioning in being able to last a full 82-game season and a deep playoff run. Obviously, they are interrelated. This is just another item in that. This is just another feather in Nico Harrison's cap regarding Luka's health and commitment to keeping his body conditioned. Nobody is ever rooting for any injuries to anybody. Hopefully it is not that bad, but if anything, losing in this fashion for a franchise with this much glamour and spotlight might get him a little more motivated to jump on this conditioning conundrum in the off season. LeBron James didn't jump in and take control of the plane or the boat or the crashing plane or the Titanic with Luka hobbled again. Luka coming back in the second half. Clearly, again, this was a Luka, you need to be the offensive driving force. LeBron, I am going to be the driving force on defense. Basically a supercharged Draymond Green, Jalen Johnson type of guy, and that kind of makes sense in a vacuum, but similar with Anthony Edwards on the other end, didn't feel like Luka was able to really catch a solid rhythm. He was able to bring LA to capture its first lead in the 4 to 2 minute stretch of the third quarter. But all of these plays were one, free throws from touch fouls that frankly should not have been called in the postseason, but home team, Laker whistle, facing elimination, I wasn't that surprised. And after every single one of these calls and the issues with banking on free throws to begin with, is it's gonna wear you the fuck out. And yeah, granted, Luka is getting you back the lead, but every single fall that he has, it feels like the jaws are tightening in this LA team where this type of offense just did not feel sustainable. And so ultimately, I came into the fourth quarter. Everybody knew this was going to be the final stretch on the track, the last 100 meters. I fully expected LeBron James to just take the piloting controls and take this ship where it needed to go, given Luka's hobbled back and his overall state within the game. It really didn't happen. Clearly, they were going to double down on primarily Luka creating off-the-dribble advantages against a high degree of switching perimeter Minnesota defense, and that went about as well as you would expect. I don't know if LeBron was mentally tapped out already, given the fact that he's laughing already in post-game interviews. Maybe he was. Given his stature, given his age, given the limited burn that he's got left, I just have to point that out. The Lakers' small ball scheme couldn't last, ultimately against a team with as much youth and depth and just tenacity and nastiness as the Minnesota Timberwolves. They absolutely need a center that is going to rim dive with Luka. He is an enormous component of Luka's ability to puppeteer the chessboard of the opposing defense, leveraging that pressure to get himself easier looks closer to the rim. If you're asking Luka to do the earlier in the season Memphis Grizzlies no ball screen, just ISO, take guys off the dribble, could not be further from optimizing Luka offensively. And on top of that, the lacking rim protection was horrendously exposed, giving Rudy Gobert his Kodak moments. Really tough matchup for LA overall. I think we were gonna see this fate kind of inevitably, given how reliant, again, the starters were for JJ Redick and what type of athletes both of them are at this point, their specific offensive needs, and then the broader team's defensive needs, given their opponent in the T-Wolves, who have proven potency to toggle between your traditional Rudy Gobert, rim diving center, great rim protector, as well as their ultra switchy Naz Reid at the 5, Julius Randle at the 4 type of matchups as well. I wouldn't say that the Lakers were actually and secretly super inept, and the way that they closed the regular season with such a great defense was completely fraudulent. They were just going up against a much more athletic, a much younger, and a much deeper Minnesota team. Hopefully that is instructive for them as they near the off season. As of now, we have found ourselves with the Minnesota Timberwolves moving past the first round of the NBA playoffs for the second time since 2003.